Ready? Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Uh, on yesterday, we had a good discussion. At least I thought so. Very enlightening, and we were talking. Our pastor started off talking about uh, the journey of the teachers and where we are. And it's not only that being the journey of the teachers, but the journey of us as a class and as a people. And I don't mean just Africans. I mean the people who log onto this phone. The enlightenment that we receive and where it has taken us, especially over the last year. But what he was pointing out was the noticing how the 13 has become one and how it stands out in the way we approach things on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, how we rely on each other and recognize that at any time you are probably more of a facilitator than a teacher anymore because everyone's input is so valuable to the lesson. And even with that said, one of the things I really, really enjoyed was listening to some of the other teachers talk about their beginning as teachers and how there may have been reservations in the very beginning, but looking at them now and how that all started and where we are as a group. So we talked about the 13 becoming one was the kind of the theme of the day, and we're talking about how we study and teach differently. Has dramatically changed because of as I say, we becoming one and realizing and recognizing the ability and input of everybody else that speaks. And that input not only includes the teachers, but it is the comment and the questions of everyone else that participates on any given day. And in the midst of that, George asked a question or talked about introverts and extroverts, and we got into discussing that. That took us in a slightly different direction, I suppose, but it ended up being something that was enlightening as well, as it kind of narrowed us down to help us to focus on what we are motivated on or what we see when we start teaching. It has nothing to do with gender or culture, and it may not even come from always out of the Bible. There have been a plenty of days we have had discussions outside of opening the book. So, but the catalyst for all of the discussions that we have had, the conclusion was we are moving in the direction of truth, and that is at any cost, and that is the driving force of what we do, and will be the driving force of what we continue to do. So I wanted to get into more of the question thing in a bit, but as usual, we want to start off the day of asking, are there any questions and or comments on yesterday or anything that you've seen this week or anything that you may have about anything? So the floor is open for anyone. And I hope that was a good summation. I hope if there's someone else that's something I didn't point out, please feel free to bring it up. Okay, but the floor is open.
Did I miss? You did say encourage questions from everyone, right?
Yes, sir.
I want to be sure I missed that somehow. I don't know.
Well, if I didn't, yes, we encourage questions from everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something we'll probably talk about just a little bit more in a minute. But first, just to see how everybody's doing, if they have anything they'd like to discuss.
Hey, Ron. It's Charles. What I want, fine. What I want Rev to do is hit me with this question. When Jesus came to this earth, he didn't come to the earth like everybody be singing and stuff to save us. He came to the earth to deliver us from the things that we was going through and the lie was, that the religion was, putting on us. And not only that, to show us the power that we have within ourselves.
Okay, Pastor.
Jesus did come to deliver us from our ignorance of ourselves and to point out to us by example the way to expose religion for what it really is. If you really look at what Jesus talked about, what he taught, most of it was based on an exposition of what was being taught by the priesthood that was contrary to what the intent of the scrolls was. And he did not come to end it as much as he came to expose it. And the generation after Jesus was supposed to deal with what was being exposed and use it to bring balance to humanity. However, there was a misunderstanding of what it meant by the next generation is supposed to do that. The next generation was not speaking to a biological generation. It was speaking to the next generation of the type of Israel that desired to understand what the scrolls were really saying. That type of Israel has nothing to do with a geographical location. The idea of Israel speaks to one who is like Allah and one who is like God. When Jacob's name was changed, that's what it was changed to Israel because he was like God. And recognized through his battle wrestling with the message that was inside of him, the angel, the message. He wrestled with the understanding of that. And when he came to an understanding of who he was created to be, that is when his character was changed. His name, his character was changed. And from that point forward, he was reflective of the essence of his Creator. And so here we are in the generation after Jesus, seeking to bring balance to humanity. What happened is that everyone has seemingly made attempts to theorize the scriptures as opposed to understand them. What I mean by that is made efforts to become theologians as opposed to teachers of spiritual reality. And that resulted in a perpetuation of the very religious patterns that Jesus had come to expose. Now we are on the mountaintop of exposure, and we have vowed to make every effort to make that exposure not only real, but to make balance real as well. So the deliverance is from our ignorance as to who we are. Think about what happened when Jesus was accused by the Pharisees as being, or the grabs the Pharisees as being one who sees himself like God. And Jesus said, is it not written in your scrolls that I say that children of the Most High? Well, Jesus responded to them in the same things that we are told today. We are told that we can't be God. Jesus said, why can't you? It's written in the scrolls. So that ignorance has persisted until now, and it is incumbent upon us to continue this journey so we are able to, finally bring some balance to humanity. And if that's clearer enough, or if there are not questions or comments, we can move a little bit further.
Charles, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes.
I want to
yes, ma'am.
Kind of piggyback, just Kathy. See, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey, yesterday when we was talking about desire as being a teacher, I have that burning desire on the inside, and this is just a comment. I have that desire on the inside to be that teacher that's going to reach people, that's trying to help them to get away from the religious things that they're talking about and that they're learning, because I didn't know that the things that I'm seeing with my eye, the things that I'm seeing and the things that I'm hearing in my spirit is really getting me to another place in the spirit. And it's such a burning desire. And sometimes I know what I want to ask, but it just won't come out. When you ask a question, I'm not afraid to ask the question because I ask the question in a minute. But it's like it's such a burn, and I really can't explain it. And it's like sometimes it's like I can't comprehend, what's being said sometimes, but I don't let that put fear in me to where, like I can't get it. I'm just not going to worry about it. But I really want to learn more, and I thank God for being on the line since we've been able to connect with y'all on Saturday and Sunday, being able to connect, to be able to learn more, to be able to share it with others. So I just want to say I thank God for Reverend Richards, and I thank God for all of y'all.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I want to say something to what you just said, and because that's where we're going today. I want to talk about desire and intent. That was something that we talked about yesterday, and I want to talk about the importance of the questions, and that was kind of going to be the theme for the day, looking at questions and where they come from, and how the answers arrive, and even using Charles and Pastor as an example this morning. But what I like that you said, and I hope everybody, we encourage questions all the time, because it not only helps bring understanding to everybody else who may also not have a question, Kathy, or may like some understanding, but they don't know how to form the question. So even if you say, I kind of see that, but I'm not there yet, keep talking or give us some more, or help me to understand this at a different level or whatever. Well, it helps, because whether I'm talking or even Pastor's talking, someone else may see it a different way. And that's what we were going to talk about this morning. I hope to talk about this morning. This oneness that we're talking about with the teachers is all of us. It's not just the teachers. And the questions play a pivotal role in what the answers are, in the wisdom that we get in the explanations. So all of it is one. And the comment, one of the things I remember when I first came to Greater New Faith, it wasn't anything about, when I made a decision like, I like it here, I want to stay here, this is where I belong. And it wasn't anything about you need to go to the pastor or go to your old church and move your letter. My desire to be a part of this and to learn put me as a full-fledged member entitled to everything else that everybody else had that was sitting there. So the people that log on to this phone, whether this is your first day or you've been doing this for all of the year and even the years prior when we were in brick and mortar buildings, we're all one. And that membership includes those who are seeking truth, those who are looking to understand their soul rather than operate from their mind, those who desire to be light, those who desire to be loving kindness for mankind. So we're all in this together, and that's the oneness and the uniqueness of it. So anybody else want to address what Kathy just said before? Because that leads us right into our lesson.
Yeah, Brother Ron, this is George in Philadelphia. I just want to say to my sister Kathy, I received, your spirit of seeking the truth, searching the truth, and I just concur with you and encourage you, to continue in your efforts. I know that it was a scripture that was shared, some time ago from Pastor Richard, from Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, verse 4 and 5, where the word says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might." And so I just want to bear witness with your spirit that we are the children of God. And thank you, just for speaking your words of desire. And to desire is to expect, and to expect is to achieve those desires. So just be encouraged, my sister, because you have encouraged me. That's all I want to share, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron, this is Barbara.
Thank
Ron,
you.
this is
Yes,
Barbara.
Barbara.
I just want to reiterate again that the questions are what drive the lesson, that drives us to what we need to concentrate on for this time, for this moment, for this period. And so anybody's questions are often questions that someone else has as well, as has been said. So I think the questions, as Pastor taught us years ago, it's key because the questions speak to what we're dealing with in the moment. And that brings us to not necessarily just yesterday or tomorrow, but what I've got to grow through right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like that. Yeah. So that's why you hear us sometimes almost begging for questions. As any of us that open our mouths, whether you call us teachers, facilitators, or whatever, it is a very important thing to us, individually and collectively, to get this right. Because if I say something and I misspeak or I say something and somebody say, "Ron, I didn't get any of that," my worry is the next week I'm not going to have the same audience. So if I go back to try to fix it, I want to make sure that it includes everybody who was there the first time. This is extremely important. And that's why you've heard me give my phone number. We've asked you to even send in text messages just to someone who else, may ask the question. Is very important. But is there anyone else? Because if not, I want to go into that, what we're talking about, intent and desire, and how the questions play a role in what we do every week.
Yeah, Ron, I have a question. This is Jackie.
Hey, Jackie.
And this is for Pastor. And I kind of tried to ponder it, and I apologize for not asking earlier. But last Monday when we were on and Pastor was talking about his headache that he had, and he used the word submit. And I guess I was a little confused about, did you submit to the headache? And because I had one this week, and I ended up taking something for it, but I didn't know how to. I tried to play back the lesson,
what you said when you had the headache. So can you shed a little bit more light on when you said and I hope I'm paraphrasing this correctly, when you say you submitted, when you finally did submit.
Okay.
Thank you.
First of all, there is no issues with taking something for your headache. There's no problem with that at all. I'll be the first to say to you, I'm not that person who tells you if you have enough faith, you don't have to take anything for your headache. That's not me. The other thing is, when I spoke of submission, I'm speaking of the type of submission that we are speaking about when we use the word worship. Worship means to submit. And when Jesus talks about worshiping God, he is talking about submitting to Elohim. Submission to Elohim is not submitting to an entity that's external of you or separate from you. When you submit to God / Elohim, you are submitting to who you are. And when you submit to who you are, it is at that moment that you either are going to get clarity as to what's going on with you, the headache is going to subside, or is going to continue. Regardless of how it works out, it doesn't matter, because you're submissive to who you are. And now everything that affects you from that point forward is in the hands of the universe. And since you are one with that, nothing can be for your bad. It is always for your good. So whether you take something for it or not, all of it is the same. You are submitting to the essence of who you are. Everything on the face of this planet, everything has as its essence light. And that light manifests into objects like the human body, trees, etc. Everything has that foundation. And when you submit to your foundation, that's when you become one with the universe, okay?
Okay. So when you submit to it, that you're dealing with it. Did I hear that correctly? Is that what I'm hearing?
No. Accept who you are.
Okay.
Just as easy as you can accept that you were a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no question about who you were in terms of your name, Hogue. When the teacher called your name in class, you responded, didn't you?
Yes.
Why? Because that you had embraced who you are. You knew it. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to ponder it. You didn't have to ask questions about it. You knew it. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying submit. Submit to the characteristics, the essence of your being. That is the reason we teach the principles of the kingdom, and we refer to them so frequently and make every effort to explain what they are and what they look like, so that you can see who you are in terms of your characteristics, your essence. And that way, you don't ever have to question it, as you don't have to question being a whole. You don't ever have to question how you got there. What does it mean? None of that is questioned. You just embrace it and you respond to it. And when you respond to it with a headache or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. When you respond to it out of the essence of who you are, it is at that point that you become whatever the Creator. You are in the place wherever the Creator intends for you to be. Does that make sense to you, or does that help you?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome, my dear. Anyone else? Let me say this also. I heard Ron and Barb talking about the idea of questions. And truly, it cannot be emphasized enough how questions are the driving force. If you read the scriptures, no one asked, the lady at the well didn't ask Jesus any questions about what happened in Egypt yesterday. She asked Jesus questions about that time period. No one is going to come to us and ask us any questions about Jacob's well that's in North Carolina. They're going to ask us about the issues that are taking place around them. That's when you're doing the work that Jesus intended for you to do, when you deal with things that face people at that moment. And I just want to reiterate that. I know it's already been said by Bob and Ron and others, but I just wanted to reiterate that, okay? Ron?
Okay. Anyone else questions or comments on what we've discussed so far? That leads us right into not only what Kathy mentioned at the start of the lesson, but what Kathy Smith talked about on yesterday. And we were talking about trust and having faith in the word and trusting what the teachers are talking about. And after we got off the line, it bothered Kathy a little that she did not talk about the fact that she didn't want that to come across as the trust to me not to ask questions or to feel that you can't ask questions. And I know where she's coming from with that, because that's where religion has led us, to make us think that it is wrong or be afraid to ask questions, because the first thing people you'll hear leadership say is you can't question God. However, that nothing is further from the truth when you're trying to gain truth and understand who you are. It's here in the book. What's in the book is meant to be understood, and you don't gain understanding by not asking questions. So that's just wanted to make sure that she came across correctly. She felt like she may not have stated that as clearly as she wanted to, and that's where we were intended to start this morning, giving her room to make that explanation. Question, as everyone has said, is the driving force of what we do. And that is where we are right now. I want to kind of paint a picture here, and I want to take it back to Genesis. I have been, as Pastor probably knows more than anybody, we've talked about being born again, and I think I gained an insight of it on yesterday, even a little bit more than I had. And I see something here that kind of supports what we're saying. I was looking at being born again. I was looking at the deep, and in Genesis 1 and 2, it says, and the earth was formless and void, and darkness covered the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. And we have been taught, or it has been implied rather, in some cases, that is something negative. It is something dark. It is something evil. But it is not something dark and evil. The darkness here is, as we have discussed, is the unknown. But it is something that is waiting. It is a treasure chest, for lack of a better term, of enlightenment for us to use to bring understanding and enlightenment to mankind. So I look at it at like this: if you had something that of value, and you had this thing of value, and you could reach in it and gain anything you needed out of that treasure chest, what would you do with it? How would you share it, or would you share it? So this treasure chest does not contain houses or purses or money or trips and status and that sort of thing. It includes love and compassion. It includes understanding. It includes the wisdom. It is the wisdom of everything that is. It is the wisdom that everything that shows you what it means to be Elohim, what it means to be a co-creator. It is the wisdom that shows you how to be love and understanding. It is the wisdom that shows you how to couple this with and give birth to enlightenment and become that light so that others can see. So when you look at that, and I thought about something in the midst of all this, when Pastor and I were talking the other night, not only do your answers come from this wisdom, from this treasure chest, from this place of darkness, but so do your questions. As Kathy talked about a few minutes ago, that desire in her to get it right, that desire in her to be a teacher, that desire in her to see wisdom and be able to explain things and be able to help other people in their lack of understanding and in their state of confusion coming out of religious places. That desire comes from this treasure chest, from this deepness of darkness. And it is only dark because it is there and it has not been understood yet. It is dark because it has not been put into a form that is usable. The same enlightenment that brings me light will bring Charles light, but if Charles lives on the other side of the globe, it may have to be fashioned and formed in a different way. That is why it said it has no shape to it. What you feed to Charles, and Charles's question may be different than what mine are. But it all comes from the same well. It is the same light, and it is the same understanding. So it was my tip at one time, and maybe we will go back into this because I see a connection between Jesus's conversation with Nicodemus in chapter 3 of John and chapter 1 of John, where it said, in beginning was the Word, and here in Genesis 1:1. I think they're all related. And I think it is talking about the treasure chest, and that's my word for it. It is talking about the deep, the darkness. This is not something that is meant to bring us harm. This is something that that's meant to be a mystery to us until one comes along, as Kathy said, with the love and desire enough to see what is in it and to understand that being born again is not meaning that, as he said to Nicodemus, has nothing to do with going back into the womb, but it has everything to do with going back to the beginning and saying, I submit myself to learn this. I submit myself. I drop away everything I need to bring understanding and enlightenment to these people that I see are hurting. So fill me up, impregnate me with this word. So the questions come from the same source as the answers. And all of it is meant for us to bring into life and put it into the form that it can be understood. And as I said, my understanding and my experiences may be quite different from someone else you're dealing with. You tell us the same words in a different way to bring us enlightenment. So somebody else, please help me out with that.
Come on.
Yes, sir.
Suppose for a moment that all of the darkness that's mentioned there in Genesis, right?
Yes, sir.
It says the darkness covered the deep, right?
Okay.
Suppose that darkness is Elohim. And the light is the understanding that comes out of the wisdom that is Elohim.
Okay.
Because when we talk about, when he writes about the earth becoming chaotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does not say that it became evil. It does not say it was desolate in terms of having been destroyed. the essence of everything that is existed, even though there was no order to it at that moment. Suppose for a moment that the chaos looks more like the confusion that we have from our religious teachings, and not so much a chaos in terms of things physically being out of order. If there is spiritual chaos, then would that not speak to being confused about spiritual principles? And if that confusion about the spiritual principles were covered by covered by Elohim, that entity or the essence of it, and out of it came light, then the light that was called from it is the substance from which everything else was brought into existence. So when it started talking about the sun, the moon, and the stars, it talks about the essence of the principles of the moon and the stars and the sun, and what their effects would be on humanity when it was brought into physical existence. The sun, source of life, the moon, representative in bringing balance to the oceans in terms of cleansing, as well as the minister cycles are being governed by the moon. The stars being representative of the multiple messages that's being sent by our Creator. And as you stated, you may see it different than Charles, and Charles different than you. Those representative of those messages that come in the form that is necessary in order for us to understand them. So when Jesus was talking to Nicodemus about going back to the beginning, he was telling Nicodemus, you have to go beyond where the priest has brought you from and begin to see what was before the priest is. Does that make sense?
Not only does it make sense, I'm going to make a statement here. I'm going to show you something. I want you to tie it up since you're on a roll, because you're in the right place.
Okay, I can tell you I was on the roll.
When you look at the beginning, Pastor, the beginning is the potential of what is or could be. It is the here and the now. It is not, it is the present, and that's it. Nothing else matters. It is the present. The beginning is an infinite expansion of the possibilities of what can be created. So it is the origin of the concept of ideas. So in other words, my going back to the beginning, I have a different I may have a slightly different beginning than you because my experiences are different. It is the same, it is the same creation, it is the same enlightenment, but it appears different for me because I'm not you. And what I need is not the same thing that you need. I think we're saying the same thing, but help me with that, because beginning goes directly into what you just said, that newness of going back and forgetting everything that you thought you knew.
That sounds a little bit like the definition of what truth is, too. The opening of multiple potentialities.
Yes.
So if we look at that in terms of how the word is actually written, in terms of beginning, right? It actually doesn't say literally in the beginning. It said beginning created, right?
Yes.
So suppose out of beginning came this chaotic thing we call earth consciousness, right?
Okay.
And it came out of beginning. Would it be no different than making preparations to build a structure? And all of the pieces are there. The trusses, The floor joists, everything is there for that structure to be constructed, right?
Right.
To the untrained eye, it's just a pile of lumber or material, and you don't know what to do with it because you're not a builder. So you are taught by someone, you leave that place because it's chaotic to you and like, I don't know what to do with that. Then you go someplace and someone says to you, this is what the structure looks like. Let me show you how to put it together. And they teach you each aspect of that structure. Now when you go back to that pile that you thought was nothing other than chaos, you can see the pieces more readily. Even though you don't clearly understand all of it, you begin to work and put it together like a puzzle. And now you are beginning to express the enlightenment that you received from the one who showed you how that structure, not only how it looked, but also took you back to the beginning of it to show you how it was built. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So is another way of saying that the spiritual principles are sort of like the blueprint before you build a structure or a house or whatever. You there's a thought of what it would be, and you put that thought on paper as a blueprint of how things should go together. So is it not that the spiritual principles are part of the blueprint of showing us how to build the structure of a spiritual existence?
Yes.
So, Rev, this is SD. So when you said that, I thought of an example because I think, I know I've done this in the past. You buy something in a box, and it's you have to put it together when you get home, whether it be a desk or a cabinet, shelving, whatever. And you see all these pieces, and you just look at the picture in the box and say, okay, this is where, so this is how they put it together. And then you get halfway through it and you realize, well, something is on backwards or it's not right. So then you have to take it apart and actually pull out that sheet and use each piece like it's supposed to be used and follow the instructions. So like you're saying, from spiritually, sometimes we look at what we should be or what we should look like. Today, we don't necessarily give ourselves the truth and the foundation to get to that point. We just know what we want it to look like. So sometimes going back to the beginning, like you're saying, following instructions, we're going back to that first white sheet and actually looking at everything and incorporating it like it's supposed to be used, instead of just going by the picture and putting it in because, one wrong scripture interpreted one way can lead you on a different path. So now you come back to, I think Barbara said it earlier about just coming back to the truth, actually. So that darkness is sort of uncovered truth that just needs to be put in order, is what you're saying.
I am. Last night, funny you say that, yes, because last night Tristan had this little wooden toy thingy, truck, and we got all the pieces out of the box. I look at all the pieces and start putting them together, and I take it apart again because I know what it's supposed to look like. When I got to the last piece, it didn't fit properly because even though it looked like the picture, the internal pieces were not in the right place. And that speaks volumes when it comes to Nicodemus and his experience. Externally, Nicodemus thought that everything was well because he was mimicking the picture. And the picture that he was following was the priesthood. However, when he spoke to the master teacher, when he spoke to the one who understood what was beneath the surface of everything, he looked and he saw that externally it looked right, but it was not functioning right because the pieces that were hidden were out of place. And if that's not where we are now, then where are we? Is that
Yeah.
in line with what you're saying is?
So yes, exactly. I mean, like we can look like everything's together and everything's, you're giving that appearance, but like you said, it's not functioning properly. So
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
idea,
I like that.
the idea of one with everything, right, has absolutely nothing to do with what you see on the surface. It has everything to do with what the surface covers, what's beneath the surface. Meaning that beneath the surface of everything that exists, whether it be a mountain or a tree, a human or an animal, a cabbage plant or a rose, beneath the surface of everything that exists is light. The same energy composes everything that exists. And that in itself is the unicity of everything that is. Excuse me. So, if we are to understand or to embrace, how is it that we can truly say that not only are we one in the existence in the spiritual world, there is no such thing as we. It's only I am. And the I am is everything. There is no we, there is no us, there is no me as much as it is an I, because the I is everything that is. And when you go from the I, that's when you begin to see what the I produces. And the I produces the trees, which is light also beneath its surface. The I produces the mountain, which is light beneath its surface. The atoms in everything are the same. That's how we are one with everything. And to carry it beyond that, everything in existence in this earth has the same elements as does the universe itself. So if we can see the expanse of the universe and begin to narrow it down to it becomes the earth realm itself, then what we see is a shrinking of the massive universe into this thing that we call Earth, and it becomes so dense and tightly packed until we can now see things like trees and birds, etc. But if we open it up, we can't see those things with our eyes because it becomes the light that it is beneath the surface, which is atoms that are flowing as opposed to atoms that appear to be standing still or compacted into a different form. Does that make sense, or am I rambling?
No, it makes perfectly good sense. I like that. The part, though, that my mind is still on is there is no we, it's only the I am. That kind of stuck with me a little bit. So we are in the process now of that discovery, recognizing that we are one. We are not individuals, and that goes back to desire and intent. We all seek the same thing, and that is truth. and we are willing to become whatever and give up, make any sacrifice to uncover truth and become truth. So that is the I am. There is that takes away your individuality, right? Do you want to expand that a little bit further?
Yes. The idea of we reminds us of what the I am has created. The we is the connection. It is the expression of the human. It is the expression of earth realm. The I is the expression of spiritual realm. Example: when we speak of spirit, breath, wind, air, all of those are one. There are different tags to them. Our expectation is for them to function in different ways in this earth, but yet they are all the same. That's the I am. In this realm, in these bodies, as we move these bodies around, the we comes into place. And the we that comes into place is when we look with our eyes. Everything we see with our eyes are things that have boundaries around them. Everything we see with the eye is boundless. And that which is boundless is the only truth that exists. Because everything that does exist comes from that which is boundless. And the boundaries that are around the things that we see with our eyes are placed there by the boundless spiritual essence, be it anger or be it peace. Because the I am says, I formed the light, I created the darkness. I am brought the light, I am brought the darkness. But when we see light and we see darkness with our eyes, we see separate entities. When we understand that I am brought them into place, they have the same source, so they are the same thing, yet they have different functions. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Any questions?
I hate it ain't no more football.
I wanted to expand on that sense of I as well. Yesterday, it was mentioned, it was brought up earlier this morning about the intention and desire. And yesterday I used the example of George and Philly walking into the I am, but then also once George, or the more intimate and the more George becomes familiar with the I am, that kind of is him, in terms of us being as teachers, having that same desire for everyone to grow and have that personal understanding relationship of themselves as well. And I said by relationship, the more that you understand and familiar with the I am, the more that extends to you wanting, or for us wanting that for other individuals as well. It's because what we look at, or what a person identifies as quote unquote I, begins to change from exactly what Pastor was just talking about. So for example, I as a person can identify, when I think of, without anybody ever saying anything, when I think of I think of Sheldon as an individual. We can go beyond that, and then later on in growth, maybe I identify as me and my, when I think of myself, I think of me and this a small group, communal group that I'm part of. I look at that as being my identity. That I can go further with me identifying with all humanity. And so now I see myself, or I think of myself as every individual. I have the same compassion and love and desires for growth of all humanity. that can even go further, where now I don't even identify anymore so much as, or just see myself limited as humanity or human, but I don't even see myself no longer being in nature. I see myself as nature and understand that I am a part of it. So in all those situations, every individual has what they associate at that particular time as being I. And so what we're talking about here is to understand beyond sight, or the ideas that we are just individuals and everything is separate, is us, and then we're in some world is actually changing. As that particular thing changes, also the desires and intents of ours, or how far that desire, intentions, and compassion spreads out, changes as well.
What you described, what I saw as you were speaking, Sheldon,
Mm-hmm.
is the fluidity of indigenous thinking. What I mean by that is the flow of the thought patterns of people before they were introduced to concrete manners of thinking. The flow of their thought patterns said that the river is you and you're the river. The mountain is you and you're the mountain. You're one with all of these things. Therefore, when there is a mishap in the midst of nature, something happened in the ocean, and now there is a tsunami forming. Before it even forms, because of the fluidity of your thought, you know what's happening, and you move to high ground. So when the waters get there, you're not destroyed. Why? Because you're one with that ocean, and you knew what was going on. The animals are still that. That's why they are able to get to safety. Make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think about it as you were talking to, in other terms, which I actually like yours better, but if it just helps for anyone to understand, they actually have a relationship with nature. They have a relationship with the ocean, the weather. Even the animals that they hunt and eat, there's a relationship or a familiarity and appreciation for. So even when grace for them, when eating, no matter what it is, plant or animals, involves being thankful for the life that is given and nutrients from that thing that is transforming from that plant or that animal to themselves as well. So even in that, they are honoring that thing that or the stuff that they are eating. So there's always this respect or holding in high regard, and not being dismissive or just looking down on anything, but totally different relationship. Yes.
And that's why they ate with their hands, because it was honoring what they were eating. And that's why they didn't kill any more or collect any more than they needed to survive, because they knew we are one with the earth and is always going to provide for the next meal as long as we respect it. I'm sure, and I don't purport to speak for him, though he's my brother, I'm sure that when George first began talking about I am, in terms of pulling together International Ambassadors Mission, this was far from what he was thinking about, but yet it opened the door, not just for the idea of this I am, but it opened the door for many of us, all of us, to begin searching for the root of that thought of I am. And that's where we are today, still in search of that.
And Pastor Richard, if I may, to you and also to Sheldon, I thank you for, again, just bringing even deeper clarity, because in my journey, back in 1974, and Pastor, you know of it, I've spent a lot of time speaking and talking about the name of Jesus. And it wasn't until, you brought, some spiritual enlightenment to me in terms of the Aramaic sayings of Yeshua. And because of that, it's just a continuous journey, that I'm having a deeper revelation in terms of connecting the I to the only I. And so as I continue to, just hear us teach and speak on this, is just, again, continuing to empower me. And I'm just so grateful because I only looked at it in terms of how it was taught in the Greek, how it was taught in Latin, but to be able to understand it from Jesus' native language has really encouraged me and empowered me. So I'm grateful, again, the journey that we all on and how, again, everyone in terms of the teachers, which is everybody, is bringing even deeper clarity. So I just thank you, for this topic and conversation that we're on. I'm done.
And this is an amazing conversation, a lesson that we're having. All we've talked about here is the unity and becoming one and the empowerment that brings us. And we cannot, as Sheldon said, get away from desire and intent as we desire to move closer to the universe and who we were created to see and understand and walk in what we were created to be, how that brings us closer together. And the empowerment in that is you becoming light so that others can draw from you, others can see. So again, the questions and the answers are the same source. They come from the same source. I want to tie something else into this that was already alluded to, but not explained fully. And I'm going to need Sheldon's help in this. I don't want to put the burden on him to have to explain this. That's going to be on Pastor to tie this in. But I want to talk about John chapter 1, verse 1. And what I want Sheldon to talk about is the Word, because it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. So the uniqueness and the oneness of Miltha, I want you to tie that in, at least talk about it from the perspective that you did before, and let's bring that in, because as we are growing and as we're seeing this, because I'm reminded of something we talked about yesterday when Jesus sent the 12 out. He said to them, take no thought. Don't take anything. You don't even have to take an extra coat with you. So you are what you need to be. And at any given situation you find yourself in, what you need is there because you are the I am. So talk about that for just a minute, and let's talk about the strength of that and what we've already discussed.
Okay. So when Jesus talks about the Word, and I'll first start off by talking about what I always thought traditionally, so that it may help someone else out who can relate. But I always thought of just the Word as the Bible, the physical Bible, the words that were within, whether that be Old Testament, New Testament. What was said was what I was supposed to live by. That was just the law above all laws. It didn't have much understanding. It was just more so, this is what I was told. So this is what it means. There is no other book. There is nothing else that's ever been written that is as important as the Bible. When it says the Word, though, that is talking about something that there is no English or even Greek word that comes even close to more so representing or getting, capturing, I would say, all the understanding of what that word represents. And that word is talking about all that exists, all that has ever existed, and all that will exist in the future. It talks about power. It talks about force. It talks about manifestation. Like I said, in terms of past, all that exists and all that will ever exist. So that complete thing is also timeless. And so in the first part of in John 1 and 1, when it's mentioned the milta, the word, it's talking about the same when we talked about earlier, talking about the beginning. And so Jesus was telling the disciples about this, is he was talking about their destination. He was talking about what is, I mentioned a little while ago, not even a birthright, because a birthright is something that you have guaranteed ownership to, that you can claim ownership to. But this is actually something that is you and part of you, and therefore not separatable from who and what we are. So when we talk about milta, it's more, it's not even a promise. And even going back to the beginning of Charles's question at the very beginning, what Jesus came to do, even as Pastor was saying, the very first step and the very first thing Jesus could tell them or was trying to do was to strip away all of these boundaries and these misconceptions that they had, because all of these boundaries and misconceptions, which for the vast majority of us, at least on the phone, all of us have had as well, has to be stripped away before we can even walk into the idea that we're God. We have to at first accept the fact that it is possible that we are God. As long as we hold on tightly to we can never be God, as long as we don't even hold on to the fact that what the word milta means is even possible, then we cannot move beyond that particular point. But that's what the word milta actually means. It is something that we are. It is literally everything. It's also pretty much a guaranteed in terms of our destiny as well. Is the idea that, now I say this all the time, at least used to say it all the time to myself, I live in a safe universe. And so what does that mean? That means that I am walking and understanding the particular promise of the milta and of the words that no matter what, this is not like some protection or something that comes from a man or anything like that. It just means that I am destined. And as one professor used to say, when we used to have studying right before exams, there's no way you can mess this up. In the same way as we talk about all the things in life, we talk about pitfalls, we talk about entanglements, we talk about sin, etc. And Barbara yesterday with the powerful word of growing through things. That is all this is about, is just continuing to grow. I hope I answered your question in regards to milta. If there's any other questions, please ask.
Thank you. Does anyone else see anything here or any further? I wanted to tie this in because we moved into talking about unity and recognizing who we are. And to me, one of the best portions of that recognition, or better ways, excuse me, I said that wrong. One of the best ways to recognize that is returning to the beginning. The returning is a mirror. The returning, the desire to return to the beginning is showing you that there is something there or something that is not there that you don't see. Otherwise, why would you go back to the beginning? So what Nick, as Pastor said, and I'm putting this in my own words, y'all, but what Nicodemus saw in himself is this may look right. I have on the right clothes. I get the right respect from these people. I am a part of the religious sect here and doing the religious thing, but internally this does not feel right. There is something more, and that something more is the word that is in me, that is bubbling in me, that is showing me that I need to seek some advice. I need to look beyond what I already know to gain a better aspect of who I am. So, and I hope I'm saying that right. I hope I'm not bringing confusion to what Sheldon said. Someone help me out, though, if you can explain it and tie this in. We're talking about becoming one. And the unity is not just becoming one. We started this off yesterday talking about the way they teach. It is not just the teachers coming together. It is the unity of Ron coming together with Ron, and all those voices in me, all those egos and all those things in me that and thoughts that push me in one direction or another being silenced and saying, okay, but what if, or what's the more? And recognizing that after all these years, all those thoughts have not carried me anywhere. So the submission part comes to say, but what if? What is this thing that is turning in me that's showing me that it's more? And that's what as the intent and the desire grows, the balance is the humanity shrinks away. The humanity shrinks away so that the spiritual part of me can be seen, can be heard. By who? By me first. And then as I grow into who the being I don't readily see at that time at first, but get glimpses of as I move in that direction, I see it in you. I see it in Sheldon. I see it in Barbara. I see it in Kathy. I see it in Pastor. And I see how it all fits together. And the desire grows even more because I see it. And that's when I recognize the I am is not just me. The I am is the encompass of all of us, the spirit of all of us.
I can add a little bit back, a little bit to that, Ron, too. So the Milton, other thing it kind of like represents is spiritual deafness, but all spiritual deafness and godliness that existed from the beginning. And that is inherent in all things is made of. So there's an understanding when you go back to that, beginning, you are one with and able to see and understand and experience all that spiritual deafness as well. So that's when the character, intention, desire, and everything else is add to the little simple things you do. So for example, when we talk about putting something together or being more surface or putting together that toy and the inner parts are missing or not aligned, it is the inner characteristic of that thing that makes that thing alive or brings the value to it, so to speak. So recently, I was thinking about this earlier. Somebody was in a situation, I use this example, and they got proposed to, and of course there was a ring involved, and it is looked at from society generally that the proposing and giving a ring is the solidification of a marriage and or love. However, if you're going to beginning and you understand that ring and that proposal is hopefully, well, not hopefully, is actually only a symbolism of, or it's supposed to represent something that is a lot greater. So underneath that ring or inside that ring or inside what is going on, it is a hope that there is more so of a love, commitment, and compassion, and a whole bunch of other things that actually exist outside of that ring. Because that ring can be given as just a symbolism. That is what, when we're talking about something looking like what it's supposed to look like, from an outside standpoint, but then missing that, okay, there are a lot of other deeper things that are supposed to be transpiring, and it's not actually this ring that does that. Hopefully that helps. But with Nicodemus returning to beginning, it is that understanding, seeing that godliness of who and what he is, and then as we talk about it, being led by that being changed inwardly.
Yes.
So are we coming to a wedding, Shelby?
Oh no, no. Remember, also in this particular situation, I was a little skeptical of the ring, and I was seeing how what the ring was meant to represent was kind of in the absence of all these other things kind of taking place. But
Okay.
even an example to expand further, though, because it might help with understanding. That's where those people were at the time. So they were putting together this toy model and not understanding that the parts on the inside have not necessarily been fixed. And hopefully they will grow and discover that, soon. But like I said, this is all part of growth. But I thought that might work for an example to bring understanding.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Next time I'll be more cautious when I'm putting it together. Anyway, the idea, when Ron said stripping away, that's when humanity began to shrink away. That sparked something. When Jesus told Nicodemus to go to beginning, to return to beginning, at beginning, that's when humanity strips away humanness. And when humanity strips away humanness, that strips away all of our excuses for not being who we are created to be. It also strips away our clinging to the idea of being an individual in a selfish way. And when we strip away the humanness and the humanity, that in itself strips away the we and replaces it with the I. That's when we speak about balance with humanity, or balance in the midst of humanity, that's the I of it all in this earth realm. I believe that the spiritual understanding of humanity, the oneness of it all in this humanity. However, I also that the idea of humanity in the way we think with earth consciousness speaks to a group of individuals who remain individuals in terms of male, female, individuals in household, individual races, individual cultures, individual nations, that kind of thing. When we speak of humanity spiritually, all of those divisions are melted away. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes. It does, yes.
So that distinction has to be made. And what I'm seeing now from the inception of this discussion is a quest to see more clearly what we have embraced. And that quest is to get a greater clarity on what it looks like, and I don't mean with our eyes, but what it looks like with our soul to be one. What is this thing that we are hanging our hat on to bring everything to the place where it should be? this unicity, this idea of being in rhythm with this orchestra that has strings and brass instruments and woodwind, and all of them are different sounds, but they are one sound that is distinguishable but yet melodious. This is the idea of the oneness, the quest that we are on, to hear that orchestra and to know that the reason it is so melodious is because there are different instruments playing the same note, traveling in the same direction, yet traveling on a different road, be it a road for an Islamic Sufi or a Native American shaman. The same road, the same note, and that's what makes it melodious. It has the same end. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
That's where we are. When I was listening at Catherine's talk about the desire, I have this desire, she was saying, and I was thinking about how long that journey has been, because I was not at the inception of it, but shortly afterwards. And that's what I have seen in that journey is tenacity, a willingness to endure rejection, a willingness to be the one that sticks out in the crowd because you refuse to agree with something that's not in the scriptures. But that's what I've experienced there. But not only have I experienced that with her, the reason I bring that up with her is because she's not the person that sits at Greater Faith Foundation, but that person who sits in the midst of all the religious themes and principles, and well, not principles, dogma and antics, and not, I don't even know whether to call it that or not. Rituals, I may call it, that may be better, that exist, and being able to maintain that deep desire beyond everything that's going on around you. That to me speaks of being peace in the midst of a storm. And I do believe that unless we are able to be strong enough, to be committed enough, to hold on to who we are, regardless of what's being said around us or how we're being treated. I don't know whether you know or not, the life, I think, is of Eartha Kitt, how her life grew into what it was or is. You hear them talk about her and promiscuity and alcohol, etc. But have you heard about what her foundation is? That she was born through rape, and she was born on a plantation, or a sharecropper plantation, actually. And she never knew who her father was, even though it was some white man who raped her mom, and the mom gave her away, and she slept under the house with the chickens and cats because she was high yellow, and they did not permit her to sleep in the house with them, and she was abused as a child and grew into the person who was a defender of everything, everyone who was living a life of rejection. She was one of the first voices to speak out and defend homosexuality, in defense of the gay community, because she said that rejection is rejection and you don't know what it feels like until you're rejected, that kind of thing. But look what her life blossomed into. So what I'm saying is this: it doesn't matter where you came from in terms of religion, in terms of your humble beginnings, whether you step under a house or whether you step in a mansion. What matters is where you are now. And where you are now is only worthy of being there when you are a benefit to humanity. You are not where you are to benefit you. She could have very easily gotten to where she was in terms of notoriety and income and left behind everyone she knew was being rejected and treated as she was. I say all of that to say this. We did not come from those places where we hearkened from for us to look back at them and say that we are better than them or that they are living in ignorance and we should not associate with them and we know more than they know and that is why there's a wall between us and them. No. Our mandate is not to reach back but never leave those who need us. Jesus never left the sheep. When Jesus talked about going after the one, he was not talking about going after the one he left. Jesus was talking about going after the one that left him. So we don't leave the sheep regardless of whether the sheep is sick, confused, angry, malicious. It doesn't matter. The malicious sheep gets picked up and held close to the heart. So the malicious sheep's heart can beat in rhythm with the heart of peace, love, and kindness. That's who we are to be. And all of this came from the word spoken. I have a desire to. Any questions about that? Any comments about that? I don't ever want us to forget where we came from in terms of our upbringings, our understandings, the teachings that we embraced, the teachings that apprehended us. I don't ever want us to forget that. Why? Because by virtue of our Creator showing us the pathway, it makes us obligated to be the pathway for others. Hear me well. Not to show them the pathway, but to be their pathway, regardless of what it takes. Any questions about that? Ron, we are that darkness.
Okay.
We are that deep. We are the darkness that cover the deep.
Okay.
If Elohim is that darkness, that wisdom, we are the darkness that covers the deep. We cover the depths of confusion, and we don't cover it for the purpose of hiding it or lording ourselves over it. We cover it to make ourselves available for those who are confused to reach out for the light, to search for that light, and we are there, bringing different aspects of the puzzle to the table, so that regardless of who you are and your thought patterns, there is something here that you can understand.
Yes.
The way that Sheldon, when Charles said to Sheldon, I don't get what you were saying, but keep talking, I'll get it. All he was saying was, I am going to do everything I can to understand it. I don't want you to minimize what you're saying. I simply want you to keep talking so I can get to where you are in my understanding. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And Pastor, one of the stumbling blocks for me has been understanding, when trying to understanding the conversation, we're going back to the beginning, is I did not understand or was at a place where I didn't see all what it meant to me at the beginning. I thought that, I kept going back, looking at Genesis over and over and over again, trying to understand every aspect of what is being said. But what I've gained from this is you return to the beginning. Your understanding comes as you return, because each time you return, you're humbling yourself and you're seeing more and more of who you are. So it's not so much that I needed to understand it all and see it all to know what I'm returning to, but that I trust it, and I trust who we are and how far the word has brought us. The experience is being too great not to trust it. So that's and that experience that I talk about also includes our questions. I love the way we started off today with what Kathy Neal said and what Charles asked, the question Charles asked. That's who we are. That's the essence of who we all are. We are questions and answers. We are enlightenment, wisdom, and understanding.
Ron, I noticed that's what even led us to this point is for a very long time with the questions and the seeking of understanding. Essentially, we have been continuing, not knowingly, going to beginning, or at least the very least willing to go to beginning. And because of a desire has only been or started off understanding exactly what Jesus said, and then the willingness to disregard concepts or where we may have gotten things wrong, and incorporating those new things, focusing on that. When Pastor just told us simply to begin reading the New Testament, only the red, what Jesus said, and focusing on that. But everything we have done, and like I said, keep asking the questions. We are continuing to the beginning. We are constantly questioning ourselves. Another thing that wasn't said yesterday in terms of anyone asking questions, and for anyone else who is not a facilitator, we're constantly asking ourselves questions as well. And every time any question is raised, that question comes up in our head, and we are then questioning that particular thing which we may have an understanding of. But all of us are constantly questioning. So, and we see ourselves along with everyone. And then what Pastor just talked about not leaving the sheep, and this is definitely for everyone. It doesn't, in some situations, it doesn't even mean that you're able to necessarily, in a sense, save that sheep. What it does mean, though, is that your heart is always open and available and ready for that sheep, and that we do not look down or fail to see the godliness in that sheep, no matter where that sheep is. We see the promise and the manifestation in that particular sheep. And so that is even the same for stuff, for example, we may see on TV for someone that we may never ever speak to. This is still a matter of the heart and a matter of the inner growth that we are talking about as well. So it even goes beyond just our actions. The one other thing I've been on my heart as we've been speaking, which is quite different from a traditional setting for which most of us came from. We don't really tell anyone, and I know personally, I do not like telling anyone what to do whatsoever, giving them that is their right and their freedom. The thing that I am mostly and chiefly concerned with is that person's heart and understanding of themselves, and trying to speak to that, but not actually telling anyone what to do whatsoever. It's simply trying to walk with them with the mirror so that they can understand who they are. I'm done.
Yeah, I like that. And any questions or comments? I guess we're ready to wrap it up if nobody else has anything. Just one more thing I want to say, though, and I'll see if anybody has any comment. Do not think for a minute that whether you speak on this phone or not, that you are not a teacher. I guarantee you that there's somebody in your life, it may be a loved one, it may be a child, It may be someone on your job who you don't even talk to. Someone has their eye on you. Someone watches how you handle things. Someone watches how you talk to other people. Someone has noticed how you handle adversity and what you do when you know something happens in your life and you should be down and pouting about it. Someone is taking notice of that. So just remember, you know, as everyone has said, who you are. You, no matter whether we are vocal or here or not, we're all one. We're all one, and we're all reaching for the same goals, and it takes all of us, and we're strengthened by each other. So that's I think is important that you know keep that in mind as we go into our Sunday afternoon and our Monday and go back to work and be empowered by who we are and the strength that God has shown us through the enlightenment of the lessons that we've learned on Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays. He's taken us to a different place, and I am at a place of appreciation and excitement. I'm almost giddy over the weekend to know that we get to do this. The privilege that we get to do this excites me, and I am thankful for it as well. So any questions and comments before we close out?
I do, Ron.
Yes, sir.
I would like to say that a question that was texted to some of us yesterday about the idea, the religious concept of our guardian angels and what happens to your angel when you die, and what does death look like. We're going to address that question tomorrow. That is our desire anyway, and wherever it leads, that's where we'll go. So I've raised that because it is not often that we such a probing question to begin with at any time that comes from, you know, someone who has been listening, as opposed to coming in. And I do want to make everyone aware of the direction that we plan to travel in tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Ron?
It's been a yes, ma'am.
This is Audrey.
Hey, Audrey.
Good morning. How's everybody? I've just been listening to all of this, and it just reminds me of my own sort of teaching journey. And I just recall one time that I was appointed to teach, not volunteer, appointed to teach. And I was in lots of turmoil about what to teach and how to teach, and you know, and I was just sort of praying and beseeching the Creator to help me. And the thing that came to me one night in a dream was just teach. And that really perplexed me because I was like, oh, that's what I'm asking. How do I do that? But I think essentially it's the same as telling us to be, just be. How you do it and finding your way through it is all part of the journey of discovering who you are.
Yeah.
As long as you have a little trust in yourself and in the Creator. But essentially, you have to make your way through it. You have to just be you and make your way through it. But I think the foundational thing of your connection to the Creator is there. It's always there. You just have to realize it and trust it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I got through that because I did trust it and I trusted myself, although I was still a bit uncomfortable doing it. But it was just all part of my journey of getting to know myself.
Yeah.
And what I was capable of in terms of relying on the Creator. So I think
I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
That's all right. I was just going to add in the end, it's all the same. Teach, be, I am. It's all the same. You just have to trust in that.
Yeah. What I was going to add is, Pastor, we talked last night, and you know, it was kind of my understanding that he would just start talking this morning, just asking questions. Kathy was supposed to start by talking about the comment she made yesterday, and then Pastor was going to take it. And then he called me this morning and said Kathy probably would not be here, and you know, and wanted me to take a more active role earlier in this. And you will not believe the apprehension that I felt. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this before? Why you wait till the last minute? You know, and I had to catch myself. Say, you know, what's wrong with you? Relax. Just relax. But I wonder if and when I'll ever get over that. You know, there was nothing to be upset about. There was nothing to be afraid of. But I think that my confidence is knowing exactly what I'm going to say and having opened the book and looked at something and feeling more confident in that portion of who I am. But as you said, the journey of discovery has its ups and downs. And I quickly settled myself because I didn't have time to have an anxiety attack. If I had, I would have had a proper anxiety attack, but I didn't have time. So it was just time to move forward and just, as you say, just teach. Just open your mouth and let it go. And I hope it worked out fine.
Your feelings.
It did.
Is because you're accustomed to what you've been trained to do. That whole idea of preparation is different than what it is now. I mean, than what it was, rather. Spiritual preparation is totally different. And now that we're finished, you can have your anxiety attack all alone. It's okay.
And he did you a favor by not having that long period of anxiety for yourself. You had 2 minutes to get it out your system, and then you had to start. So you need to thank him for not intruding on your morning and your night.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. So what is he calling me this late hour for? It's after 10 o'clock.
Fine. I hope you had a good night and a good morning.
I had an excellent night. I did. But yeah, I'm thankful for this group and all of you. And this is at the end of my anxiety attack. This is a pleasure. It's a pleasure and a privilege, and I appreciate it. A little oasis in my weekly drama I call a job. So, thank you. Anyone else? Questions or comments before we close out? Call it a day. Again, remember to. I'm sorry.
No, I just said love you guys.
Okay, I'm just going to say again. Remember to tomorrow 6 p.m. if you all have a desire to listen to another Bible study. Okay, we're meeting again tomorrow. Love you. Thank you, and hold your questions or text them for next week. Okay. Good day. Have a good day.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Pastor.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.